And welcome to another edition of DT Live. So this video this evening will be a rather short video. I wanted to perform some music. I wanted to perform some music live in front of an audience. So I figured I would do it live in front of you guys. I haven't performed anything in forever. I haven't done any serious music performance since probably the last time I did a video of me playing the recorder or me playing the trombone here on the channel. Those videos have been several months back. I haven't touched any musical instruments since then. So this should be interesting. I have a cup of coffee. I have a music stand right behind me. And here in a second, I'm going to pick up a recorder and start playing. We will give people a few minutes to get here for those that want to check out the performance live. And several of you are already here in the chat. Now, this stream should be rather interesting. I've never tried to perform me plus accompaniment live on a stream before. So I got to make sure everything's kind of in sync. Also, because I got to move around, I'm not going to perform at this chair. I'm going to be standing. I got to make sure the camera is in focus, and hopefully the mic and the gain and everything will be correct, because I won't be able to go back and edit it in Audacity or anything. I mean, I guess I could, but for the live portion of it, the one you're going to hear, however it happens, it happens. One of the reasons I want to do this is not just that I wanted to play some music tonight. I think that's cool. I think you guys will enjoy me playing too. You guys usually enjoy when I do the musical stuff on the channel. But the point of this is performing in front of a live audience, performing in public, can be a nerve-wracking experience. It is, it's not something that just anybody can do. It's one of those things that's hard to learn too. You either are one of those people that can get up and speak in front of an audience and perform music in front of an audience or whatever it is. You're one of those people that can get up there and not be nervous and do what you need to do. Or you're one of those people that your nerves are just racked anytime you have to do something publicly, a public speech or a public music performance. And for whatever reason, it's one of those things. You're either one of those people or you're not. And I've seen so many musical performances. Have you guys that have seen musical performances, bad musical performances, they all have something in common. You can tell when something's about to go wrong before it ever goes wrong. Right? You can tell that guy, he's about to miss that note. He's about to, flub that riff. He's about to screw up in some way before he actually screws up. You can tell when somebody's performing music. When I've watched thousands and thousands of live performances, live musical performances, recitals, and things like that, concerts, and I can always tell this guy is about to crash and burn. You can always tell when it's about to happen. And one of the things that you guys will see when I perform here in a minute, I haven't performed in forever. The piece I'm about to perform, I've practiced it years in the past. I haven't played it lately. It's not going to be perfect, but I guarantee you, at no point will I ever crash and burn. At no point will you ever see me nerves I'm just rattled and I'm just, shaking. And at no point will you ever, I will be the most relaxed. Almost you could push me over and I would fall down. I'm so relaxed. And that's how you need to be, not just performing music, but anytime you get up in public and you're worried about being nervous. You just get up there, you do it, and you try to be as relaxed as possible. If you're in a sitting position, try to be as relaxed as possible. Lean back. If you want to cross your legs in front of you, whatever it is you want to do, as long as it's just a perfectly relaxed position. If you're standing the same way, use good posture, but be relaxed. Make sure there's no tension in your shoulders and your neck, So what you're going to see tonight, obviously, it will be a musical performance, but again, I think it goes deeper than that. We may talk a little bit more about, performing in front of an audience, regardless of whether it's a musical performance or not. And, some tips and tricks. A lot of you guys ask me about, getting in front of a camera or a microphone and doing something like YouTube videos or Twitch streaming and things like that. And some people are like, man, I don't know how I'm going to react to that. And you never know until you actually do it. Yeah, and somebody in the chat is asking, is the coffee decaf? No, this is the real thing. Now, I haven't had a cup of coffee today. I've only drank 2 sips of this cup. But one important thing we were going to talk about too, anytime you perform in public, do not tank up on a bunch of caffeine beforehand. Do not do it. Because I haven't actually drank this cup of coffee yet, I'm going to be fine. But if I drank, say, 2 cups of coffee, in a half hour before performing, I will notice it. My airways will be, there will be, some wavering in the tone of me playing the trombone or the recorder or any kind of wind instrument. You will notice it. Caffeine spikes your blood pressure. And, it's a physical reaction to caffeine. So, no, you shouldn't, you should never intake a bunch of caffeine before doing a musical performance. Obviously, alcohol is completely out of the question. DT, do you own a cowboy hat? I do not. Yeah. DT, I could see you being a music teacher. I have taught music in the past. All right, we gave people some time to get here, so I'm going to try to perform this. Again, I may not hang out here long this evening. I just wanted to run through this musical performance, and I needed a live audience just to make it a little challenging for me. Now, one of the things about this performance, it will be the George Frederick Handel Recorder Sonata, Opus 1, number 2 in G minor. I have a recording of the accompaniment, which is Harpsichord Accompaniment. I've tried to make sure that everything is in sync as far as the recording that's going to play, and then what you guys hear from the microphone. Of course, there is some syncing, offsetting from the microphone, due to latency issues. But I think I've got it to where the mic and then the desktop audio that you guys hear, which will be the harpsichord accompaniment. I think all of that should be in sync. One thing I won't be able to do, I will not be able to monitor what you guys are hearing. I will have no idea if my volume is too loud or too soft as far as the recorder in the microphone. I also will not be able to hear whether the harpsichord accompaniment is too loud or too soft. I've done some test recordings a little bit, and I think I've got it okay. But unfortunately, I just won't be able to monitor that stuff. All right, guys. So let me get set up here, and I'm going to change the camera angle here, and then I will perform a little bit. So I'm going to move the microphone over here. All right, let me get my earbuds in so I can hear the accompaniment and it won't bleed through the mic. All right. Now this will be a 4-movement piece of music. I may skip one of the movements. One of them is a very short, slow movement that will be very difficult to play because of the computer accompaniment. It won't actually follow along with me, so it makes that particular movement a bit challenging.
1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and.
Alright, that was movement 1. And I'm going to get set up for movement 2. You guys in the chat, let me know how the volume sounded on that while I get set up for the second movement.
1, 2, 3.
Alright. And of course, again, one of the things, that was far from a perfect performance, but I hope you guys notice the relaxation, the kind of the easy mood I'm in, right? At no point am I just tense and tight. All tension, of course, should be out of your body when you're performing. Yeah, the sound was good, all right. I'm going to attempt the second movement. So the first movement obviously was a slow movement. The second movement will have a bit more speed to it. Second movement is a little more challenging. I haven't actually read through this movement in a long time. I hope I can remember how to play it.
1, 2, 3.
All right. And I was off on that. So I got off from the harpsichord accompaniment on that. I kind of feared that, though. That is kind of a tough movement to play for not looking at it. I mean, I've played it in years past, but I actually did not look at it before this stream. But I had actually got off on that way before I actually stopped the recording. I don't know if you guys noticed. Some of you guys probably did notice. second part of that, the part that switches from minor to major, as soon as I got to that part, I got off track pretty early in that, and I was trying to find my way back on track with the accompaniment. I never could get it. So I figured it was best to just go ahead and stop that. Alright, catch up on the chat for just a second. Give myself a rest. Do Stallman's free software song. And we'll pick a different instrument for that. There you go, just for you, buddy. Alright. Now, you guys actually did hear the entire second movement because there is a repeat. So you had actually heard everything. It's just on the repeat I kind of got off. I'm actually not planning on doing a real recording and editing this and trying to put it together later. So I'm not going to go back to the second movement. So there is one more movement I want to play. It is the fourth movement. It is quite a bit faster than the two movements we've already played here. So this one could be tough too. Although I expect me and the harpsichord accompaniment will stay perfectly in sync in this one because it's more of a kind of a dance kind of tune. It would be kind of hard to get off track, where that second movement that I played, you know, there was some weird stuff in it, you know, some weird metric stuff in it. All right. So this will be the fourth movement, the finale, the presto. I don't know what kind of count off the harpsichord accompaniment is going to give me. I may have to listen to it a couple of times.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, he's going to give me 4 beats. Okay. Because this movement is in 2, I was afraid he was only going to give me a 2 count, but he's going to give me 4.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay. All right, I got it. All right, movement 4.
1, 2, 3, 4.
All right. That was a little bit of Handel. Wasn't the best performance. Obviously, I butchered the second movement a little bit. All right, guys. Let me sit back down and adjust the camera. All right. So that was a little bit of the recorder. Not horrible, actually, for not playing for a while. The second movement, obviously, I got off track with the accompaniment. But even getting off track with the accompaniment, I was, for the most part, I was playing the right notes. I was just either a beat ahead or a beat behind of the accompaniment. I couldn't figure out what was going on there in that last part where I stopped. Trying to adjust the camera there. All right. There is a very short third movement that's just like 16 measures, but it's a really, really slow movement. It's long notes. And because it's just long notes where you have to really keep a strict tempo, I can't really play that with a computer. You know, you really need a live person that you can look at. That way, when the harpsichord is, plays a long tone that's, lasts 6 beats or whatever, and then when he finally moves to the next note, you actually see him raise his hands and move, and then you move with him. You can't do that with a computer, unfortunately. One of the limits of, playing with a computer accompaniment. All right, the Halo theme, huh? I don't know the Halo theme. Handel needs drums, yeah. Cowbell, right? Yeah. I appreciate the all the compliments. Yeah. I was actually surprised how well that went. I actually thought there would be some moments of crashing and burning, more than what happened in the second movement with where I stopped it early, on the repeat. But the first movement, I don't know. I want to go back and listen to the first movement, the slow, pretty movement. I thought was wonderful. What I could hear. I obviously I wasn't hearing what you guys could hear, but I thought the first movement, was pretty spot on. The fast fourth movement, I was a little shaky on that. One of the problems with that last movement, the fast movement, is again playing with a computer. If I was playing with a human being, he would move with me because I did not want to play that last movement at that speed. And by at that speed, I did not want to play it. That's not the speed I wanted. I was trying to speed up, but of course the recording will not go with me. I wanted to play that. No. I wanted it to move along a little bit. Obviously, it makes it a little harder with the fingerings, but it actually makes it a lot easier breathing-wise and phrasing-wise when you speed it up. And it kind of makes sense. I believe that's the speed most people would perform that at anyway. It kind of has that kind of and that kind of bounce to it. Or the recording here seemed a little slow for that movement. All right. Well, enough of the music. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Now, are there any Tchaikovsky pieces for the recorder? I doubt it. So the recorder kind of quit being, a popular instrument or commonly written for instrument, probably around 1750, Because by then, by the early 1700s, they were already making the transverse flute. And then, that flute was a better instrument as far as it was more in tune. It was more versatile. You can do a lot more virtuosic stuff on a real flute. It's harder to play the recorder. So, what we typically think of as the flute replaced the recorder. So, nobody really has written for the recorder in a serious way in a long time as far as serious composers. Once you get past the Baroque composers. Now, the Baroque composers, all of them wrote for the recorder because that was the flute then, the recorder. So you can find a lot of recorder music from Bach, from Vivaldi, from Handel. If you want to listen to some really cool recorder music, check out the Vivaldi Recorder Concertos. Some of those recorder concertos are written for the Sopranino recorder. So what I just played was the alto recorder, this thing here. Now what you typically play in school is the soprano recorder, that one there. And then imagine one a little shorter than this one and pitched higher. That's the Sopranino recorder, or the piccolo recorder. And those Vivaldi concertos for that Sopranino recorder are just some incredible pieces of music. And it's unlike anything you've probably heard, because it's such an interesting instrument, such an interesting sound anyway, the recorder, because it's a, you blow through a reed through a flute rather than across a hole. That's a different kind of sound to the recorder than the transverse flute. The Brandenburg concertos make use of the recorder. Yes, several of them. The second concerto, especially, has some nice recorder parts. The first concerto, I believe. The fifth concerto, the Brandenburgs. Yeah, the six Brandenburg concertos. Maybe all of them have recorder parts. DT, do you have a music channel? I would love to see it. I do not. I've thought about doing some music stuff on another channel, but I probably wouldn't do much with it. I just don't have the time. Really, when I do these kind of off-topic things for music, it's for my benefit, because I haven't played anything in a while, and it's just to get me to do something serious, like, play in front of an audience. That was... Because I haven't played in a while, it's just nice every now and then to play, just to remember going through the motions of everything, no matter what it is, whether it's the recorder or the trombone or... But why is it called the recorder? I don't know. I don't know why they named any of the musical instruments what they named them. Yeah, DT, don't you play the trumpet as well? It's not my main instrument. My main instrument is the trombone. So the trumpet is interesting because the trumpet, kind of like the recorder became the flute. The modern trumpet, before there was a trumpet, there were other instruments, other Renaissance instruments that kind of mimicked what a trumpet is, but they didn't have valves. Oddly enough, one of the oldest instruments that still is pretty much the same as far as its form. Now, it's evolved over the years, but for the most part, it's essentially the same instrument. The trombone has been around for a long time. It predates many of your orchestral instruments that you know. In the Renaissance era, in the ancient music era, it was called the sackbut. But it was essentially the same thing. It's a curved bell that had a slide. Just a smaller instrument then. It was a smaller bore, had kind of a tinnier, brighter sound. And for modern music, modern orchestral music, now the trombones are larger bore instruments. They have this rich, deep kind of Teutonic sound, right? Think late Romantic period, Wagner. Dun, 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 dun. That's what we want the trombone to sound like. We don't want... That's what it sounded like in the Renaissance era. Yeah, I could play the recorder, and Luke could play the didgeridoo. Is Luke a didgeridoo player? I bet I could record the didgeridoo. Actually, I can almost mimic a didgeridoo on my trombone. I can do some interesting avant-garde kind of stuff on the trombone. I can mimic the didgeridoo, and I can mimic crickets chirping and all kinds of weird stuff on my trombone. Yeah, do you know the sousaphone? Yeah, I know the sousaphone. Both what it is and how to play it, I'm assuming, is what you're asking. Yeah, I can play the sousaphone. Do you plan to learn any Linux or technology-related songs like the Temple OS hymn? I did not know there was a Temple OS hymn. DT, maybe something from the 80s. Yeah, I don't know of any 80s pop tunes off the top of my head I could play on the recorder. I mean, Guess we could do movie soundtracks. You guys know any movie soundtracks that would be appropriate for the recorder? I don't think that was right. That was an attempt at Raiders of the Lost Ark, though. See, some of these movies are old. I bet there's a lot of people watching this stream that don't even know what that theme is from. That was from the Superman movie from the 70s. Yeah, the Titanic. Yeah, the Titanic does fit with the recorder because there was a lot of recorder music in the Titanic soundtrack from who was the composer of that particular movie soundtrack? I can't remember the guy's name. He's recently passed away, unfortunately. He died in a plane crash about a year ago. Fantastic composer, though. Did the Braveheart soundtrack as well. What is his name? Horner. James Horner. But yeah, the Titanic. Yeah, right. Celine Dion, right? Billie Jean. You're talking about the Michael Jackson song? Can't do that on the recorder, unfortunately. The Flight of the Bumblebee would be incredibly hard on the recorder. The recorder is not good with chromatics. The chromatic scale. That is one of the reasons why they made the modern flute instead of this thing. Because especially when the further away from the key of C you get, the further out of tune you get on the recorder. Yeah, interesting fact. Now on the trombone's great for chromatic scales. I can do Flight of the Bumblebee on the trombone. Yeah, and it's so easy because you just move the slide up and down. It's kind of smooth on the trombone. Do I know any Dvorak? Yeah, I know a bunch of Dvorak. Some of my favorite pieces I ever performed, as far as in symphony orchestras, were the Dvorak Symphonies number 8 and number 9. Those two symphonies by Dvorak are fantastic. I performed the 8th symphony 2 or 3 different times with different orchestras when I was playing all the time. I played the 9th symphony at least once, I remember. That's the New World Symphony. It's really nice. Good trombone parts and all the Dvorak stuff, though. You play flat notes on that. On the recorder, the same as you do on any other instrument. You have to put the right fingering down. So here's B. Here's B flat. I just add a couple of fingers in the right spots and it lowers the pitch. Yeah, the Vivaldi Latino Concerto is my favorite recorder piece. Yeah. Glissando with the trombone. Yeah. Yeah, that's another thing. You can't do a glissando in instruments like this because you can't get all the crud in between notes. There's no real way to, you can't do that. On the trombone, you can do that. And on string instruments like the violin, you can do that. You can slide around and get all the crud in between the chromatic tones. But on valved instruments and keyed instruments, obviously, you can't do a true glissando. You can kind of fake one on some instruments. Yeah, the New World Symphony would sound good on the recorder. Any Prokofiev? Not on the recorder. The New World Symphony would sound good on the recorder. I wonder if I could play the first movement at the beginning of the New World Symphony. I could probably pull up a quick PDF of something here. By the time I find the PDF, though, somebody else will request something I know. Any Bach pieces adapted for the recorder. There's plenty of actual Bach recorder music, yeah. But if you wanted me to play something on the recorder, I mean, I could play what's some common Bach tunes people know. People know Joy of Man's Desiring, popular wedding song. You guys know that. Yeah, Bartók's string quartets. Yeah, I don't play the violin, so I don't know the Bartók string quartet. I mean, I'm sure I've probably heard some of them, but... We are trying to get a handle on... Wait. Yeah. Some other Bach stuff I could do. Huh. I can't go the octave lower than that. So I need an organ for that one. Yeah, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Ah, I wonder if I could play that. I have to think about it for a second. Something like that. Have you played any period active instruments other than the recorder? I have, yes. I've actually had my hands on a real sack butt before. I've seen lutes. I have not actually played one. I don't play any stringed instruments, but the lute is a fantastic instrument. If you hear somebody perform it that knows how to play one. Yeah, being obviously a musician, you know, a classically trained musician. Yeah, I've seen a lot of period instruments. Right? When you're talking about period accurate instruments, most people are usually talking about like pre-classical period instruments. They're talking Baroque and earlier. Usually the Renaissance instruments are what people are interested in. Yeah, we don't want to see your organ. I'm not showing anybody the organ today. All right, guys. Well, this was a fun little stream. I'm glad I got to play a little bit today, you guys. Those of you that were not here early in the stream, I did perform live the Handel Sonata in G minor, Opus 1, number 2. I played it live with Harpsichord Accompaniment, and it was okay. I played 3 movements of that particular piece, and 2 of the movements turned out okay. One movement was a little bit of a crash and burn. But I guess I could try that second movement one more time now that I got to read through it one time. I bet I would nail it the second time. Actually, what I could do, I've got an idea. I've got a piece I want to play. While we're on the Handel stuff, let me... the problem is the recordings I have for this harpsichord accompaniment is actually harpsichord accompaniment with the actual recorder part being played as well. And what I actually did, I'm going to tell you guys a little trick I did. The harpsichord and the recorder were recorded as 2 different tracks. So what I'm doing is I'm going to open up Audacity and I'm going to rip out just the recorder, or not, or just the harpsichord, that is. I'm going to go ahead and export that as a WAV file. All right. You guys didn't see that on camera, but all I did was I've got a recording, and it's an educational recording. It's meant to be played with the harpsichord accompaniment. And what you do is, because the harpsichord and the recorder are on two different tracks, you open it in an audio player that you can turn one track on or off. VLC works great for this. But what I like to do is I like to just go ahead and open up Audacity and get rid of the recorder part altogether. I know I'm never going to listen to the recorder part in the recording anyway. So
1 and 2.
all right. And I think I have got this. And we will record, or I will attempt to perform one more piece of music on our way out. So I'm going to play this one movement here. Since it was a musical stream, it makes sense to end on some music. This will be another slow movement. I like the slow, pretty movements. Plus, since I'm a little out of shape from playing, you know, I don't want to play anything too terribly challenging. And for this, I think I will just stay seated. I don't feel like adjusting the cameras and everything. I need the microphone to be a little further away from me so it doesn't just completely blast you guys out. I'll just move the microphone behind me. I'm sure it'll still pick up the recorder. I need earbuds. Otherwise, we're going to get some feedback from the speakers to the mic. All right, and what I'm going to perform here is another Handel Sonata, the first movement from Opus 1, number 7.
1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and.
Yeah, pretty sure I got off track on that one too. I need to turn up the accompaniment so I can actually hear it, is the problem. All right. One more time.
1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and.
All right. And I might have been on track or off track. I'm not sure on that. It's hard to tell with this accompaniment. I'm also not looking at the harpsichord. I actually just have the recorder part on my sheet music. I probably should be looking at the harpsichord part as well while I'm playing. That way I can see what he's doing there. All right. Back to the chat. Are you guys into flute? Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I did not know that he wrote much of his work in England. Yeah, he was German descent, but he actually was English. He served in an English court and wrote all of his music in English. That's why all of his oratorios, like the Messiah and, you know, things like that, it's all in English. Like when you see it performed, it's in English because he wrote it in English, which is unusual. There's not many composers of that era, or really any era before the 20th century wrote much music in English, classical music. Because all the great composers were, for the most part, German, Italian, French. Handel was a little bit of an anomaly, being an English composer. Yeah, the harpsichord sounded soft on that. It may be Pulse Audio adjusting things. I did notice that last time of playing, I was having a hard time hearing the harpsichord, which might have been why I was a little unsure whether I was actually with the harpsichord or not. I actually should pull up Pulse Audio and actually see if that's the case. I have noticed Pulse Audio sometimes, well, for whatever reason, it will just change, like input and output volumes on its own through nothing I've done. You know, I haven't hit any buttons, you know, haven't adjusted volumes in any kind of audio player or on OBS. You know, for the most part, I want all my stuff to just always stay the same anyway. I never change settings, you know, for audio. But like the other day, I did a video. Let me pull up my YouTube channel here. And one of the videos, actually I noticed the last few videos I did were, the volume was a little low. And the one I really noticed it on was the Maggot video, I think, was under. Volume was a little softer than what most of my videos are. And I pull up Pavu control. And my mic input had been adjusted from 100%, like it had always been, down to 80%, like 83% or something. I didn't adjust that. I would have never done that. If I wanted to adjust the input of my mic, I've got actual knobs, you know, back here to hit. Or if I really wanted to do it with software, I could do it in OBS. But I didn't do any of that. But for whatever reason, Pulse Audio just decided, you know what, today we're going to make your mic input 83% instead of 100%. So I record a video. And I don't notice these things until I actually publish it, because you don't notice that it's softer than your other videos until you actually compare it to other videos. So when I'm recording it and then editing it and listening to it, I don't know if it's softer or louder than my other videos. I only notice it when I publish it, and then somebody will say, hey man, why is this video so much softer than the one you just published the day before? You know, it's only when you have reference do you notice these things. But I have noticed Pulse Audio. Pulse Audio's done that to me a few different times. It will just change the volumes of things for no reason. Yeah, DT, maybe you should look into Jack. I actually have Jack installed on the system. I have actually, some of the videos I've recorded with Jack instead of Pulse. I mean, of the 750 or so videos on the channel that I've recorded, probably 50 to 100 I've recorded using Jack. I mean, sometimes I do launch the Jack server and record using Jack instead of Pulse. Because OBS handles jack too. As far as, you know, is jack a perfect solution? Not all the time. It's okay for recording. Now, when I'm not recording, I want to switch back to pulse audio usually. I've noticed with jack, I start the jack server and I get my mic and everything set up in OBS, but maybe in this video I also want to open up Firefox and go to YouTube and play a YouTube video to record on camera in OBS. Then I notice YouTube's not working. None of the videos have sound. You know, it's things like that. And jack can be frustrating too. Jack is frustrating in a different way, but yeah. There's no perfect audio server on Linux right now. Yeah, all of them. Maybe one day we'll get there. Should we ask Linuxy questions? Might as well. If you guys got any Linuxy questions, might as well get them in while I'm here. We'll make it an even hour. I've been streaming for 52 minutes. Let's go another 8 minutes. You guys got any Linuxy questions? Feel free to ask them. Musical questions as well. Get them in. I'll finish this cup of coffee that's now ice cold. But I felt like I needed the caffeine. Yeah, you're Googling flute versus recorder. Okay. You know, flute is the more modern instrument. It's much better in tune. You can do a lot more on the flute. The recorder is rather limiting. It's from a different kind of time period. Also, the reason it's out of tune, when the recorder was first invented, you know, our tuning system was quite a bit different. That was before equal temperament. If you guys don't know what equal temperament is, if you've ever looked at a piano, a modern piano, you know, the chromatic scale has 12 keys, right? There's 12 keys, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, etc., all the way up to the next C. You got 12 keys, and they're all exactly the same distance apart as far as musically the sound. They're all exactly equal distance apart. That was not always the case. Before the Baroque period especially, there was a different kind of tuning system in place, and that is the tuning system that the recorder used. And that's why the further away from C, the key of C you get, the further out of tune the recorder gets. Because that's just the way it was on that tuning system they used. Until, oddly enough, in the Baroque period, J.S. Bach came up with the idea of equal temperament. And what Bach did is he decided he wanted to be able to write in all 12 major keys, or minor keys, whatever. And that wasn't the case using the old tuning system, so he created the system where, you know, each key was exactly the same distance apart. And then he wrote a ton of music to demonstrate this. So he wrote The Art of the Fugue and the Well-Tempered Clavier and a bunch of other collections of music where he demonstrated that he could write pieces in all 12 major keys, and all 12 minor keys as well. And it would actually be in tune. And it actually sounds good, right? Yeah, DT, Cadence will solve some of the issues you have with Jack and Pulse. Yeah, I've tried Cadence. I think I have Cadence installed on the system at the moment. I haven't launched it lately. That's usually what I install is Cadence when I do anything with Jack. Yeah, DT, what is some good writing software? Some good writing software on Linux. So I am not a professional writer, but some of the stuff that people typically use, obviously, if you want all the formatting and everything, LibreOffice, right? But most people, before you ever get to that point, you just want to sit down and have some blank paper and start typing something. You know, a lot of people use, there is a terminal, a word processor called Word Grinder. That could be useful because before you ever get to the formatting part, you just want to sit down and start typing some stuff. You might check that out. What's some other stuff people use? Scribus. You Google that because that's not something I would do. But heck, people, I mean, there are people that actually write stuff in Vim or in Emacs. You know, like real writing, not programming. You know, not programming, not scientific writing, but actual. I'm going to write, you know, a novel. People do that, oddly enough, in Emacs. It's not that unusual. And there are plenty of plugins out there for that kind of work. All right. Yeah, every octave you get doubling the frequency. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, music, you know, music is basically sound. Sound is just basically sound waves. It's all physics. It's all physics. It's all math. As all of this stuff is. All the instrument, the sound coming out of it, it's a sound wave. And why do certain pitches, certain sounds sound good together? It's because they're the right distance apart where the sound waves fit into each other. And if you get some that don't quite fit into each other, that's when you get the weird out of tuneness, you know, the the dissonance, the stuff that makes you go, "Oh, I don't like that." Yeah. When things are perfectly in tune, though. See if I can demonstrate this. So this would be G, and this would be a D. Those two notes sound good together because the sound waves, one of them fits perfectly into the other. But if I, you know, wanted to do something a little different, those two notes don't sound good together, right? There's some dissonance there because we don't want to get into a physics discussion, but DT, did you play an instrument in high school? I played an instrument from elementary school on, yes, all my life. Yeah. Air on the G String, yeah, by Bach. Yeah, great tune. If you like something slow and kind of mellow. Yeah, DT studied music. You don't do that if you haven't played an instrument in high school. Not necessarily. When I was in college, you would find people that really didn't do much in music early on in life. Not necessarily in high school, though. I mean, high school is right before college. I hope they played a little bit in high school. You don't start college. You don't go to college and having never played anything and decide to be a music major. For one thing, you wouldn't get any kind of scholarship. Nobody would pay you for that. So, yeah, Lily Pond can use LaTeX and is easy to write. You're talking about writing music, yeah. I was under the assumption he was talking about just writing as far as creative writing. But yeah, Lily Pond is great for just doing some typesetting as far as composing music. I played with it years ago. I haven't played with it lately, but it is a fantastic program, and it actually makes some beautiful music as far as the typesetting. You know, when you print it out, it looks really good. All right. Is it worth doing QEMU with only one GPU? I mean, using the Windows VM for gaming. I would not use a VM for gaming if you don't have a second GPU. I just, the performance is going to be so bad. Honestly, it's just dual boot Windows. You're on Linux and you really have to game on Windows. Keep a Windows partition and just open up Windows when you need to game. It would be great if you could do it in a VM, but there's no reason to go out and spend a bunch of money on a second GPU if you don't already have one. Don't spend money, you know, to run a Windows VM. Just run Windows. And then, you know, you got to setting up the GPU pass through can be kind of complicated as well. Not everybody wants to do that. Well, you got to be the right kind of person to want to even set up that Windows VM for gaming anyway. If you're not that, if you're just, hey, I want to game and I'm ready to start gaming right now, then just partition your drive and install Windows on a partition just for gaming. Probably needs to be a big partition, though, because of the space required for so many modern games. Matter of fact, if you don't have a second drive, that would be a good investment, more so than the second GPU for running a VM. Go buy you a second hard drive or a second solid state drive. And then on that second drive, install Windows. All right, guys. Well, let me get out of here. I'm glad you guys hung out with me. A bit of an impromptu stream, a bit of an off-topic stream, all the musical discussion here and the musical performances, but it was fun for me. I hope you guys enjoyed some of the tunes. Those of you that are arriving later in the stream, in the first 5 minutes or so of the stream, I did do some performing. I performed on the recorder a Handel Sonata with harpsichord accompaniment. That was computer accompaniment. So if you guys want to check out the stream later on replay, you can hear that performance. It wasn't anything spectacular or anything. It wasn't some kind of professional recording, but I just felt like playing in front of a live audience. You guys count as a live audience, so maybe one of these days I'll actually do something in front of a real live audience. I haven't performed a real recital in a long time. I probably should do that again at some point. I'd have to pay some pianist, though, a ton of money, you know, a few $100 to learn about an hour's worth of music for me to perform with them. Of course, I'd do that on the trombone. I'd actually pull out my trombone and get back into some serious shape and, you know. All right, yeah, do you know any similar programs to Gtile, Xtile? I don't know what those programs are, so I can't answer that, Martin. Maybe somebody in the chat can. I'm not sure what those are. Yeah, Peter says, I like playing at a grand piano much more than playing at an electrical one. Yeah, I mean, electric is always worse than acoustic. It's just, that's just the nature of it. You know, electric pianos and electric organs and any kind of synthesized sound is just, it's never sounds right. It always sounds just kind of hollow, dull, lifeless. It's just the nature of it. One of those things people, you know, really, especially in the 50s and 60s, once computers started becoming a thing, and a lot of people wanted to do a lot of computer stuff with music. You have all this avant-garde computerized music, and people were inventing new instruments, the electronic instruments, and people wondered, well, eventually computers are just going to replace live musicians. We just won't even need people. You know, a computer can perform it just the same as a human. No, that will never happen. Because no matter where we get as far as technology, you're never going to have a computer that has soul. Yeah, and then you got to have some soul to perform music. To really, there's more to music than just playing the notes. You know, that performance that I did for you guys earlier on the recorder, you know, there was a lot more to that than just playing the notes. I could show you how the computer would play something. So, a perfect example would be the very first movement of that piece that I started the stream on. The Sonata in G minor. A computer would play that first movement like this. That's how a computer plays. And that was all the right notes. There was nothing wrong. If somebody was looking at what I just played there or what the computer just played there, that was all correct. But that sounded bad. That sounded horrible. There's so much more to music than playing the right notes. As a matter of fact, I would argue, as somebody that, study music in a serious way and is a professional musician, playing the right notes is secondary a lot of times. Being musical is the primary objective. And that's something a computer can't do. A computer can't a computer can't do that. Again, it has no soul. All right. Yeah, DT, this was really enjoyable. Appreciate that. Well, let me get out of here, guys. I thank you guys for hanging out here. And before I go, I want to thank a few people. I need to thank the patrons of the channel. So these names that are going to flash by on the screen here. It's all my supporters over on Patreon. Each and every one of these ladies and gentlemen here, I want to thank each and every one of them. All right, guys. Peace.